So welcome to Partner Up Partnerships Podcast. All right, we're live.
And I was like, I have all these questions to ask.
The thing that matters in a partnership is the trust and sacrifice.
Proposing, building software that works for you.
All right. Mr. Elliot Smith. I don't know that I should do this, but today's guest, I should have just said Elon Musk, because he bears a striking resemblance to Elon Musk, and I can't help but say it. He is that kind of smart guy. We have Elliot Smith here from 6 Sense, who I've been working on some partnership stuff with, so this is kind of fun. Elliot, thank you so much for joining us on Partner Up.
It's great to be here, Jared. Thanks for the invite. I only have an Audi in my driveway. I don't have any Falcon rockets ready to go. I wish I did.
No Falcon rocket.
You know, the only similarity between me and Elon is the face. Like his bank account and mine bear no resemblance whatsoever.
Wait,
So, like, besides Jared, do you get that reference?
All
from
the time, Kevin.
All
All
the
the time. And I love it. So if, things fail in my partnering career, then I think I've got a doppelganger career ahead of me.
For sure. Well, we're so excited to have you here and to hop into the topic of today's episode. Before we dive in, quick reminder that this episode is sponsored by Crossbeam. Crossbeam is a partner ecosystem platform that acts as a data escrow service that finds overlapping customers and prospects with your partners while keeping the rest of your data private and secure. So you can sign up for free at crossbeam.com. Elliot, you had an idea of where we wanted to kick things off today, and I love the topic that you suggested. And it's really around not how you show success, but like the challenges that partner teams have to overcome in order to really fully be appreciated for their efforts. You want to start unpacking that?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I thought I'd bring that up because I think this is common, at least in my experience. So I've been in partnering for around 10 years. And I think a common theme that pops up is just the partner teams, depending on the company they're with, the maturity, how mature the program is, maybe don't always feel fully appreciated for their efforts. And I wanted to just kind of unpack that with you, Jared, and just talk through some of the challenges that face the teams, because I firmly believe there's some really, really great work going on out there in the ecosystem with partner programs that sometimes just aren't fully appreciated.
So where do you think that typically starts at? Do you think that starts as a result of maturity of the business? Do you think that stems from where the organization kind of reports to? What do you think is the lowest common denominator for a partner program being like, yeah, we have this thing over there, but we have to do it, but it's not core to what we do?
Yeah, and I think in some ways we can draw some parallels between the space that you and I are in with Drift and 6 Sense, right? Where the market there is all about aligning sales and marketing. And we know that those two functions inside the group, inside the organization, are not always fully aligned. One thinks they're doing a great job, the other one doesn't. And so we've got some great technology to bring them together. I think in many ways it's because of where the group sits inside the org. But more importantly, I think there's a lack of direction, guidance, strategy, vision, whatever we want to call it, in terms of what that company at times wants from its partner program. I think it's as simple as that, Jared. I think there's this idea that we're a software firm, let's say, we should have a partner program, and then we therefore should get amazing, tremendous value from that partner program, versus really the leaders of the company taking a few steps back and thinking, well, what do I really want from my ecosystem play? Do I want more sales? Do I want to improve customer success? Do I want product innovation? I mean, there's a number of different benefits that you can get from having a world-class partner program, but it really has to start with a vision from the top of what they want.
Yeah. So just to be clear, with a sales team or a channel team, there are kind of like direct revenue attributions that can be made. Are we talking about technology alliances, or what type of partner program are you talking about where there's a little bit more ambiguity?
Yeah, great point there, Kevin. I think it's really important to understand that my background is much more from the co-sell side of things. So more from the alliance and tech and integration partner side than it is from the channel side. I think any channel program where you're leveraging partners to sell, resell your stuff on their paper, I think that's just a given. That you just look at the revenue that's coming in on there, you're either getting a bunch of pipeline, you're getting a bunch of booked revenue, and it's pretty easy to say whether that program is performing well or not. I'm thinking more on the co-sell side of things. So that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think we can all relate to this challenge. So what for this team? What are the KPIs that you are measured on, and what do you think like the internal metrics of success are for this team that can be attributed to the team?
Yeah, and that you bring up a really interesting topic around attribution, right? So for me, when I look at, and Jared, I'm sure you're the same way, when you're looking at is your partner program and your partner team doing a good job, it really all does have to come back to sales. I mean, let's face it, right? We are at times well paid and we need to demonstrate clear impact on the business. I think where we get stuck at times, Kevin, Jared, is around how do you attribute all of the good work from a partner program directly to sales? It's akin, I think, to the marketing attribution problem that marketers have out there. Is how do you say that last touch from a marketing campaign or an activity really drove that opportunity to the next stage, through the buying process? It's similar here. Is, the KPIs that we're measuring our team on is how much pipeline are we influencing? How much pipeline are we sourcing? And ultimately, how happy are our customers at the end of the day, those customers that are serviced by our partners? And I think it's as simple as that. For me, I think those three metrics really should encapsulate everything. I think where things maybe break down a little bit is depending on where the partner program sits inside the organization. Ideally, it should be with the CEO, I think, where possible, especially for a growing, scaling company, because I think it should be up to the CEO to really drive direction because the partner program can go in so many different directions. But I think as the partner program matures, it should sit inside of sales, ideally with the CRO. But I've seen programs sit with operations. I've seen programs sit with customer success. I've seen programs even sit inside the product org. And that's where those KPIs, I think, get a little misty, get a little bit lost. And then there's that not real clear vision of what do I want as an exec for this company out of this program. So, Jared, what are your thoughts around that? I mean, a similar experience, or what's your view?
I think that the program, in terms of where it sits, it needs to sit with someone who's seen the story before. So if you have a CRO, for example, that's leveraged, alliances on the tech side and channel on the service side for driving great customer outcomes, both from an acquisition and a retention standpoint, then I think the CRO should own it. And right now, I report to the CRO at Drift, Todd Barnett, and he's fantastic. He knows what great looks like, and he's challenging our program to get there. David's seen it, having been the chief product officer at HubSpot, and I'm still aligned with our CTO and our CEO on a number of different key initiatives that impact more than just the bottom line. So I think you bring up an interesting point around attribution, and this one is painfully close to my heart because it's something that you end up fighting every time. And it's one of the, going back to like the kind of the general theme of this episode is like, what are the challenges that stand in the way? So I'm going to give away a big tip that we just implemented here at Drift. And it's stolen completely from Salesforce, but it's called, Salesforce calls it the Four Horsemen. We call it the Fantastic Four here at Drift. And the Fantastic Four really is, it's inbound, it's outbound, it's expansion, and it's partner. So let me give you an example. And this isn't like exclusive. Something could be in all four. I'll give you a perfect example. So we had an account sync with someone at Adobe, an Adobe account manager. We have a great partnership with Adobe. And they gave us all this detail about this account. And we're like, okay, awesome. This is how we're going to engage. Thanks for giving us the answers to the test. This is awesome. She says, hey, but if they come inbound in the interim, they're going to come inbound through their channel partner, who is also a Drift partner, because they do all their tech purchases and evaluation. In the meantime, they've downloaded like 3 ebooks. They recently no-showed for a webinar, and another business unit is already a customer. So is that inbound, outbound, expansion, or partner? It's all four. And that's actually the goal in the enterprise. So I think you have to answer the question, is it enterprise or small business? Because if it's small business, the TAM is so big that you do want to segment your channels. But I think when you get mid to enterprise, then it's about encircling the wagons around the customers and the accounts that matter. And attribution isn't about like last touch attribution. It's about qualification, right? Did inbound do their thing, right? Like, oh, they took the calls to action. They got awareness. Did outbound do their thing? Yeah, the BDR got the answers to the test and started going out after this account. Did partner do their thing? Yes, they were able to book, an op review. So you just have to have the qualification criteria to who gets credit, and everyone can get credit. I think is the way to do it.
Yeah, it's definitely a team sport. And I think it all comes down to me for the difference between getting scientific around this versus an emotional response. And for me, the teams that I've built in the past, I've always tried to push this notion that we as a partner program must be and must feel like and must seem like an extension to the sales team. And if we don't achieve that, then we are failing. Meaning we can produce all the reports and the dashboards and all the attribution that we want to say we did this and we attached to this much pipeline. But at the end of the day, if the sales leaders are not willing to stand up at a QBR or an annual review or a kickoff and say, we felt tremendous impact from our partner team this year, then you're not achieving the goals I think that you probably, or the vision that exec probably has for the partner program. So I think it in some ways, because the attribution problem can be so difficult, I think it needs to be that sentiment that you are really an extension of the sales team and you're driving sales impact is really what I strive for as a program manager.
You mentioned getting sales leadership buy-in there. One of the things Pete Caputa has rammed into my head over the last 5 years is make your partners famous. And I'm never good enough at that. I'm trying to fix it right now. But the next thing though, that it brings up is like, make the sellers who work with partners famous. So you mentioned like the QBR, like that's the other thing is that it's so easy to overlook like, hey, here's the big number like that we put up on the board. And at that QBR, at that kickoff, whatever, like you need to bring Sarah in who just closed that big deal with a tech partner, a channel partner, I don't care, and have her tell her story to the rest of the sales org. Because the challenge sometimes that you face in partnerships is that unanswered challenge of like maybe ambivalence or concern, or like they need to hear from their peers.
Right. But at the same time, balance that with the best salespeople that I've encountered in the software industry where I've spent most of my time are very much, they're team players, but they are very much the star. Those AEs have taken down those multiple $1 million ACV deals. They're very much the individual star. And I think part of their personality, which drives them to be so successful, holds them back from maybe giving credit to other teams along the way. So something I found in my career is a partner can do everything right, or several partners can do everything right to help that AE get that deal done. But when it comes to that deal review, they don't always mention that because they feel like maybe that would be perceived as a weakness that they got some outside help to get that deal done. Which I think is the complete opposite to how they should be looking at this. I think sales leaders should really encourage their teams to leverage their ecosystem as best they can in many different ways, as you described, right? With the inbound, outbound, the four horsemen, you can leverage multiple partners during a sales cycle. I think it's really cultural shift that needs to happen on both the sales side and the partnering side to really get full benefit and appreciation for what we can do.
Yeah.
So at 6 Sense, Elliot, you manage the kind of like the certified partner channel and the technology alliances. How do you tap into your certified partner network to guide your technology partner strategy and prioritize according to the needs of your certified partners?
For us, we're really at the beginning of that, Kevin. So, 6 Sense partnering strategy has been quite technology and integration focused up until now, and we're really just expanding into the service partner relationships, the alliance partner relationships. Think of your agencies, your typical revenue and sales and marketing consulting companies. And really, I think our strategy is focused, interestingly, in quite an innovative way, because we offer a platform for those alliance partners, those agencies, that they have never typically used for their own sales and marketing purposes. So our strategy is to work with agencies, bring them on board, offer them our platform, which can help really amp up their sales and marketing efforts themselves, get them to see some benefit from better marketing and sales on their side. And then we reap the benefits of more inbound opportunities from them as a result of them being better users of 6 Sense. And that then creates this flywheel effect. As the stronger the platform is, the more adopted it is, the more need there is for technology and integration partners. And then you get that, you get that really goodness that comes along. So Hopefully that answered your question, but that's really our strategy.
Are you charging agencies or no?
We are, yes.
Okay, just wanted to confirm. You said get them. I was like, because some people give it away for free, some people charge. So I was just curious if you were also having a partners pay.
I think some skin in the game helps, but you don't necessarily have to take an arm and a leg from the partner to make that happen, right? So it needs to be a very symbiotic, bi-directional relationship. They get a benefit, we get a benefit, everybody's happy.
Right. One of the other things you kind of called out prior to this was, okay, so we're talking about the impact of the partner program and some of the challenges that we face around, sales and dollars. I think we all agree there that if you can't demonstrate revenue performance, you're going to have a hard time getting, the eyes and ears. I mean, at the end of the day, you're asking to spend money too. So your CFO is not going to be happy, much less your, CRO, CEO. But how do you start to think about making impact in product? Because, that's something that is always so difficult to put into a KPI per se. I mean, you can do things like, retention rates and try to loosely tie them back. You can do things like activation. There's a lot of ambiguous stuff like, for example, innovation. What, for example, Drift and 6 Sense do is very innovative. And this wasn't driven by like just some product overlords. It was really driven by frontline partnership work, kind of crafting what the future could look like, and the PMs listening to joint customers. Like that's very loose. What KPI from like the capabilities that we have together are we impacting? It's like,
I think that's impossible to KPI, right? I think product innovation, how you extend the product, unless you can turn that into direct revenue and then directly attribute it, then I think you're chasing your tail trying to KPI that. And I think that has to come back to a sentiment too, Jared. I think you need to have the CTO and the product leaders, again, feel that sense of, yes, we're getting impact from the product team, from the partner team, that the partner team is not just sitting there trying to drive, meeting coordination between sales teams on either side, that they're actually really getting under the hood. They're trying to understand the product. What does it do today? What could it do? What can the ecosystem bring in terms of innovation? And present that to the product teams in a way that they can easily consume. Because every product team out there is faced with some bandwidth and resourcing issues. You got to fight for prioritization. You got to come with something compelling and innovative. It's tough to KPI that, right? But at the end of the day, shout out to Viral and Tapas from our team. At the end of the year, if they're saying, yeah, we really felt an impact, a benefit from our ecosystem, that they provided like some key inputs to drive our product to places it couldn't get to before, then you're winning. Right. And then you're winning the hearts and minds, which, to come back to that sentiment feeling, that's what you've got to win, I think, to be successful.
What other factors do you think you need to prioritize, outside of product sales, to kind of get these obstacles, start hurdling them?
Yeah, I think we're at the last at the trough when it comes to investment in technology on the partner team side. Would you agree, Jared, that, the partner tech stack isn't as solid as maybe it could be, right? I look at finance, HR, sales and marketing, other areas of the business, get to play with these cool, shiny toys that we sell, you and I. But the partner teams in general, I think, struggle with having the right technology at their fingertips. I think the cloud native SaaS companies like Drift, 6 Sense, I think really have the luxury of some forward thinking along those lines. But I've got some experience in some more of the legacy software firms out there that haven't quite made that pivot. And I look back to some of the technology that I've used to do this job in the past, and it's pretty woeful. I mean, it's basically Excel and Word and, Scotch tape and baling wire trying to put it together. And there are some really cool tools out in the market. This podcast is sponsored by Crossbeam. Shout out to those guys, game changing in just simply being able to match account lists and prospect lists and target lists with partners to throw up an overlap that says, hey, there's a mutual customer. We haven't talked to them together and there's a better together story here. Let's go present that so that we can secure that renewal for both of us and maybe drive some expansion. That's great. Or finding, a prospect of ours, a client of theirs and vice versa, and leveraging each other for intros. I mean, that I've seen that take 6 months to hang crank at other places. Whereas, tools like Crossbeam can really help you get started along those lines in 10 or 15 minutes. So yeah, long-winded answer, but I think technology is a big obstacle.
There's a bunch to unpack here. I mean, Kevin, you've seen. My take on it would be a little bit different, because I've tried most PRMs on the market. Like I've pretty much every PRM I've tried, and the problem with PRMs is that you don't need a PRM. Crossbeam, it does. I love it. There's some great value propositions. I would actually argue that you need partner ops.
Yes.
Really quickly. And I have someone on our team that's been like a half kind of like part-time resource over the past 4 months. And it's been, oh my gosh, so amazing. And I think you have to get your Salesforce right. You have to start to get your product data into your Salesforce. You need an ops person that's handy with, SQL, with databases, with Salesforce, that can help kind of set up those systems, but also the reporting structures and everything else you need to see with the rest of the business. And a lot of times what I've found is that it's just not going to come out of the box, right? Like, because partner programs are so very different. Yep. Like HubSpot, Kevin, like you guys had an incredibly complex and custom built partner, ecosystem. It was its own software, wasn't it? Like you had the ISV side, you had the partner side, you had the directory, you had discovery, you had login, authentication.
Yeah.
What a whole team dedicated to it, right?
A massive team dedicated to it. And yeah, we had folks just dedicated to ops on that team as well.
So you bring up a really interesting topic, Jared. And I think operations support for partner teams is pretty lacking in my experience. And that's great to know that you've got that kind of support. I would challenge us and say, well, we've seen sales and marketing operations come together into revenue operations. Why have separate partner operations from revenue operations? Shouldn't they be all owned by the same leader and managed as one?
Yeah.
Maybe that's a topic. Maybe that's a topic for a broader conversation with some folks who are experts in that area.
I definitely have to get some. We definitely got to get a partner ops person in here, because that would be a geeky, amazing conversation. I could geek out on partner ops stuff all day.
I'd like to listen in. I think I could learn a lot from that.
We should definitely go into the weeds with partner ops. That would be a fascinating conversation, definitely.
I wonder if anyone's doing any consulting around that either. Like, who's the partner ops expert? Like, I know there's lots of like sales ops gurus. There's lots of marketing ops gurus, like Sarah McNamara. She's awesome. But I don't know. I've never heard of a partner ops.
That should be our mission. Let's find a partner ops hero out there. If you're out there, call in.
Comment on him in the video on YouTube on this one. Like, call him out, because we want to talk.
Right?
To him.
Who is it? Because usually, in my experience, partner ops is just an adjunct to sales ops, and it's a night job, right? And it's unless it's a channel ops. I mean, let's separate channel ops from the more alliance kind of co-sell ops, because I think channel ops is well defined and it's a meaningful role that has impact and exists today. But kind of co-sell ops, right? Partner ops and technology and integration partner ops doesn't exist. You really kind of, you're tapping into or borrowing and steal from sales ops or from marketing ops, or, you're constantly going to the product team begging, for their focus and their attention. I think the operations layer could help us all.
Yeah. Elliot, what's the biggest challenge right now on the channel side of your business?
We don't really have a channel, Kevin. So, we sell direct, 100%. We have, like our relationship with Drift, we have an embedded powered by OEM relationship, but everything else is a reseller. A co-sell motion. We don't have a channel / reseller program.
Yeah, so the kind of more of alliance, tech partnerships, data exchange kind of relationships there. Whenever you're looking at kind of like the next phase of these challenges that you overcome, like you're starting to make these bigger investments. Like 6 Sense has been growing. I think I saw a post today, like 100% year over year. So solid.
3 years running.
Yeah, 3 years running.
We're doing okay over here. It's all right.
What's that?
We're doing okay over here. It's all right.
But what's Jason starting to come to expect from you now versus when I was working with Kpis and Viral a little over a year ago? Is Kpis kind of been like, hey, what's changing in here, and where is his focus as it relates to partnerships?
Yeah, nothing's really changed here. I think what we're doing is we're just up leveling our game in terms of putting a programmatic layer around our ecosystem, right? I mentioned before that it's nascent, so we're growing. A lot of these partnerships have come from grassroots, just, bumping into each other, recognizing an opportunity, product team recognizing we can extend the product in certain areas, all that good stuff that you get in the startup world as the company's, trying to find its own business model. And now to take it to the next level, it's really just that programmatic piece is, okay, we've got some meaningful partnerships now. How do we get the most out of them? That's takes some blocking and tackling and some kind of hand-to-hand combat, right, on the co-sell side. And so really what we're doing is just bringing a programmatic approach to that. And that gives us the opportunity to look at partnerships across multiple angles, not just co-sell, but what are we doing from a co-branding and marketing standpoint? What are we doing from product integration and innovation? And then you can have a much more meaningful conversation with the leaders on either side about, hey, there's an opportunity for us to do a lot more here together if we think about things differently. And that's, I think, Jared, to answer your question, is what Jason's really looking for from this investment that he's making in the program.
What is your,
Go ahead, Kev.
go ahead. I was just going to ask, what does your co-sell motion look like with partners? I know, everyone has a different approach there. I'm wondering what Sixth Sense's co-sell motion kind of looks like.
No real secret sauce. I'm a firm believer that this is a hustle game, and it certainly helps with Crossbeam to find the overlaps, right? And then it's a question of prioritization. So the way we're piloting this now, because it's really just a few weeks into this, is to identify the overlaps. In other words, what's the opportunity for us to align at either mutual customers or prospects for either or, and then work with our sales teams and have them nominate, let's say we've got a list of 500 that we could potentially do tomorrow, work with AEs and have them nominate their priorities, show them what that overlap looks like for their territory, and then have them tell you based on what they know and what they're comfortable about with those accounts, how they want to go about sequencing and prioritizing, have them nominate 5 or 10 at a time, and then simply get that hand-to-hand combat with the partners team, trying to get the connection into the AEs on their side. And so today it could be a lot better in the sense that because we're a small team and there's high volume, we find ourselves making connections and then moving on to the next one, making connections and moving on to the next one. A really good co-sell motion, if you've got the right support, the right bandwidth, the right resources, should go a lot deeper than that. You should be looking, I think, to the partner team to do a lot of the research about what is the potential better together story and play there for that particular client or prospect, and then arming the sales teams on both sides with that information so that you avoid that awkward first call where we've all been there, where everybody gets on the line from both sides and it's like, well, who do you know? Well, I'm not going to tell you until you tell me who you know, and you get that awkward kind of, oh crikey, this is going nowhere fast, right? There's a lot of legwork that could be done and should be done to prep for those kind of calls that we're not there yet because we're just not mature enough, but that's where I want to get to, Kevin. So I'm curious if you guys see the same thing or tips and tricks that you may have seen work along those lines.
We spend a good amount of time there. We don't have a giant alliances team. We have one alliances manager now and bringing on some other folks where, you have to start with a plan whenever you sign a new alliance, kind of identifying your TAM and your market. Even I think you should go so far as to have an account-based strategy, and then you need to have a contact-based strategy inside of not just the accounts, but inside of your partner. Like, who are you talking to? How does that align to, verticals or geos or territories? And, whenever you're working with, companies like the size of us, on this call, a few hundred employees, that doesn't, typically work so well. What you have to do is you have to align that against the bigger codes, which I feel like we've over-indexed on your, coming over to Sixth Sense, but like maybe go back to Infor. I mean, that's how many employees were at Infor when you left? 15,000,
16,000? Yeah, 12 to 15.
I mean, and you were heading a big part of the partner program there, right?
21, 22 people. So, a decent investment. That was across multiple different partnerships, multiple different partnership types, but with a very clear vision of aligning sales teams to partner people with that layer in the middle, doing that, what I call the interlock process, which is prepping to make sure that first call goes as well as possible.
We call it the value hypothesis, right? So it's, I think CRO calls it getting the answers to the test, right? It's like, why do you talk to a partner? They already have the answers to the test. They already have a relationship with that customer. Get the answers to the test before you show up with the customer call, right, to take the test. I love it, the interlock process. What do you think has been that biggest, learning for you, kind of going from Oracle, giant company, top 5 tech company, to Infor, to a very quickly growing, B2B MarTech kind of company?
I think the biggest learning for me is that this is where my heart is. So, I was in MarTech for a while up until around 2016, and now I'm back and just feel like this is the place to be. And I think the learning is just that partner programs are the heart, whether it's a massive enterprise like Oracle, medium company like Infor or Sixth Sense, at the end of the day, I think the core tenets are the same in terms of, what are you trying to achieve? You're trying to impact sales, you're trying to impact retention rates. And the way you do it might be slightly different, but at the heart, you got to take the same steps to make sure you've got that right alignment, across sales, marketing, and you're trying to drive the right kind of motion that's going to impact ultimately reps pocketbooks. So,
what about the people? So, challenges that partner people face is that you typically look at a resume if you're hiring an account executive. There's some SDR experience or entry-level sales in, maybe telecom, right? Contact center, like you have some phone time, and then you moved into a closing role, and then you succeeded in that closing role. So you have this profile that you can then map to stages of companies. They've done this at a small company, at a big company. But for partner, it's the pool isn't the same, and it's certainly different at an early stage, where you probably need a Jill or Jack of all trades, versus the later stages where you need someone who's more of a specialist. Who do you think is who have you seen it in for be an incredible partner person?
I think, I feel really strongly that a good partner person should have a really good, strong mix of skills. I think you're looking for part seller, part marketer, part psychologist, because at the end of the day,
part Alaskan crab fisherman,
right? Yeah, like Kevin, you need to fish the Bering Sea. That brings some interesting experiences to bear. And I think one bit that's really lost right now is you need to be quite analytical and comfortable with data. And I'm not sure the perfect person exists there, but what I have found in my experience is people who have a consulting background, in other words, maybe started their career, spent a few years understanding customers' real pain points from a delivery standpoint and trying to help a customer transform their business. I think that brings really good foundational skills that are essential to this role, because I just look at my own experience. That's how I started. And I think I always had a passion for sales, but it was maybe just hidden a layer or two below. I got that core kind of analytical, technical data background, and then added sales experience on top of that in a perfect way, which was basically bringing consulting expertise together with selling expertise in an alliance. So that for me, I'm not saying I'm the perfect partner person out there, because I'm not, but I like to look for elements of experiences from different areas, because I think there's this perception that alliance programs or partner programs are staffed with bad salespeople that are looking to retire at times, right? That there's this, it's a place for bad salespeople to go for a downhill slide into the end of their career. Not in MarTech, Jared and Kevin, not in the space that we're in, but in other areas of software partner programs, I've seen there's that perception is that someone's not hitting their quota, they're going to be put on a PIP, and the sales manager calls the alliance program and says, hey, before we eject this person from the company, would you be willing to take them? I've seen that motion a lot, and I think that's really unfair to the partner program. But it comes from this belief that, partner people are just salespeople that couldn't meet their quota and we still want to keep, and so let's give them a job in partnering. So, I'm going through a hiring process at the moment, and it's hard to find people with the right skills. You need somebody who's thick-skinned enough to be able to come in and know that not everything's going to be on a plate for them. They've got to go and figure it out themselves. And the best people that I've seen are the ones that can craft the role for themselves. That the way they partner might be different to how somebody else does partnering. But at the end of the day, all have a passion for sales. They all have a passion for marketing, and they have a data and analytical background. And that for me, I think is the ideal profile.
Yeah, I think you described perfectly the ideal profile for a team that has kind of like a primary goal of acquisition. I think I might be the only one in this room who would argue for the primary goal of a partner program and an ecosystem, an app ecosystem, as a retention and a product play. And the only thing I would add there is that the folks that I've worked with that have been the best from that angle have been the one that come with a strong sense of product, understand like how to build quality partnerships, in addition to like a quantity and a quantity of partnerships from the lens of acquisition. But then there's also like the unicorn would also have like, a product background and a firm understanding of product and APIs and endpoints and what like the best partnerships are from a customer centricity perspective is.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, Kevin, and I echo that. As we think about the evolution of the ecosystem at 6 Sense, at some point, a step in our future will be marketplace ecosystem, one-click integration model, and I'll definitely be looking for someone like you just described versus someone more on the co-sell side, where I was thinking. And I like to draw an analogy to sports here because I'm a sports nut, and I grew up playing a number of different sports, and I think I'd love for you guys just to weigh in here. I'm seeing a correlation between the best people that I've worked with in this program are more of the assist player than they are the scorer, if that makes sense. I think of AEs out there, direct sales reps really being about scoring the goal, the basket, whereas the best partner people are comfortable in that role of providing the assist and not necessarily getting the full limelight and glory that goes along with scoring the goal. I'm not sure. Have you guys seen that? Or
I feel like, Kevin, based on what you just said, Elliot, and what you just said, Kevin, I feel like we have to qualify this based on, is this a SMB go-to-market motion? Is this an enterprise go-to-market motion? Right? So like, Kevin, when it's SMB go-to-market, I completely agree with you. Product-led growth, right? Like lots of partners, build an ecosystem. It's the Intuit, the HubSpot, that SMB play. On the more mid to enterprise, where Elliot and I've been for the past, I came from the SMB side, but I've been more on that side recently. It is very different. And I would actually say that the assist person is great on the SMB side. I would argue though that on the enterprise side, I have seen those folks that are tried and true, amazing, account executive translate very well into a, revenue owning role that's contributing to a wider team, but it has to align with what they want, right? Like, for example, if you are that good as an account executive, your earning potential is probably pretty good. You're making good money, right? So why go do the partner thing? You go do the partner thing because you're trying to diversify your set of experiences. And perhaps one day you want to be a better sales leader, understand, more of the business and be more curious. Or perhaps you're, trying to, I've seen some folks go to the path of starting their own company, right? And partnerships is it's not the CEO, it's not the C-suite, but it's about as close to running a company as you're going to get as an employee, because there's so many aspects to it: product, sales, marketing, customer success. So I think people do it for different reasons. So I think you can have both. It just, you got to align with the stage of the company. It's both. It's the stage and the go to market, right? So are you SMB or enterprise? Are you early stage? Or are you late stage? Or are you, Microsoft, right? Established.
Yeah, that's a really important clarification. And, I've seen a lot of top account executives at the firms that I've worked for come to me and say that they want to be on the partnerships team because they're used to having these like monthly or quarterly quotas. And then at the end of those months or quarters, they reset and they go back to zero. And they're just kind of tired of that grind, but they still want to contribute.
And they need to go work for your partner teams.
Yeah,
mine reset every quarter too.
Yeah.
I bet Elliot's do too.
Yeah,
go back to zero.
Reactions are like, yeah, we'd like that.
Kevin's going to have a flood of applicants after this being like,
and again, I think that's a key difference between SMB and enterprise partnership teams.
Yeah, no, I agree. And quick plug for me, I am hiring right now. So if there are any good candidates out there, by all means, pick up the phone.
We are not against shameless
LinkedIn
plugs
me.
on this podcast.
Yeah.
Are you guys hiring remote or just in San Francisco, or you're in Atlanta? So
Atlanta, yeah. So we're all remote right now. I don't think we'll be back in the office until Q1, I think next year at the earliest. So the whole company is remote right now. Take anybody with a Wi-Fi connection and a passion. And hey, if you've got all the skills that we listed out before, then you're in.
I did agree with your consulting background too. I'm a big fan of hiring people from consulting backgrounds. That is a vastly missed, like, that's probably as close as you're going to get to a channel executive in any kind of role as someone that's in consulting, because that's pretty much what you're doing. What do I say? It's like you're building your own sales, marketing, customer success function inside of your company, and then you're going and building it inside of someone else's company that's not on your payroll, right? And you kind of need to be consultative to do it. You just can't sell that. People are like, how? You can't just tell me, you got to show me, you got to show up to the calls. You got to build the methodology with me, help me build a service model, help me build a delivery model. You can't just, sell it. You got to be able to consult it. And I love that analogy.
I think just as important there is the consultative selling nature is really important. But I think the program management skills that you get from starting out in consulting cannot be taught in many ways. I think you have to live and breathe that Monday through Friday client delivery, expectations, constant pressure. You learn a lot about program management, at least in my experience, that I've been able to use in this role that I don't think I would have got otherwise. I've often thought, what would have happened if I've gone directly into sales, say, out of college? And I don't think I would have ended up as well-rounded, let's say, as I have. So.
Yeah, there's also a commonality between like MBA students and coming out of a consulting background that just has like a super emphasis on like quantitative like data, and sometimes those are good skill sets to have in a partner team.
Yeah, if I can take someone from Deloitte, Accenture, Capgemini, name your big GS, you know what they've been through, early stages of their career, and you know that they were very qualitative in their approach. Kevin, you're absolutely right.
And I even like the smaller boutiques, right? Like I often say I'm a fan of people that know how to fight above their weight class. So if you're in a boutique and you're driving, client implementations and you're fighting for every dollar, and Accenture's knocking on your, client's door, like you got to be pretty good to fend off, the big five. So that's definitely a talent pool that I'm a big fan of. In comparison with just, hiring lookalikes. You also get a much more diverse, a range of backgrounds and experiences versus, like the typical New York, San Francisco, Austin, Seattle, backgrounds that you can get in that, in the tech community. Elliot, what have we missed on challenges that partner programs face?
I think we've hit them all. I mean, the last one for me is, I think, there's a lot of pressure and expectation on us to drive inbound opportunities as much as we can from the ecosystem. And a good way to do that is to launch co-branded campaigns, marketing campaigns and activities. And then maybe this is just a flaw in me and how I approach things, but I've seen those things take much longer to pull together than I think they really should. And I'm curious for you guys on your experiences there, what might be some of the challenges of getting those campaigns out of the door? Typically what happens in my experience is we get marketing teams, partner teams, sales teams on the line together. Everybody's like, yeah, we should go tell this better together story. We should do this. We should go attack this part of the market. And everybody genuinely leaves that first call excited, wanting to do it. And then it tends to get deprioritized because I think behind the scenes, it takes there's lots of moving parts and there's lots of things you got to align on: budget, resources, timing, schedule, plan, execution. And I just see things break down there a little bit. So I'm just curious if you guys, do you see that yourselves? And if not, then what are you doing that I need to be doing with my team to be better at that? And because shout out to Latne, our CMO is leaned in and ready to do this. And I think I need to show the way on how we do this. So.
Yeah, I definitely like to try to quantify the opportunity as much as possible. I lean on Crossbeam for this sometimes, and really just like addressing what the total addressable market is within our ecosystems. Doing like an ideal customer profile match, and as long as that aligns, all of these what does our joint customer base look like? And can we expand beyond that? And trying to quantify those things out as best as possible. It's hard to do that in partnerships, and so as best you can put out like a business plan for why we're doing this and quantify it as best as possible. I've seen those ones typically come to fruition more so than the ones that are harder to quantify. And if you can really sell that plan over to the partner, they tend to happen more often than not.
That's great advice, Kevin. I'll take that to heart. Do you see things break down at the content creation stage at all? Because I think that's another area that I think, maybe it's just simply getting that business case strong enough that, hey, this is going to happen. And then it just becomes natural that the content teams on both sides lean in and help get it out the door.
Yeah, to be honest, I think if there's an alignment on opportunity, there shouldn't be a breakdown on the content creation stage. That should
Quote that.
Yeah. Did you say
Quote that, folks?
What did you say, Jared?
I was saying quote that. Like the folks need to quote Kevin Raheja on that. I love it.
Okay. Yeah.
If there's alignment on the opportunity, there's not going to be a breakdown on the content. I love it.
There really shouldn't, because this should be a business development / partnerships driven initiative. So as long as you can, prove the opportunity, the content creation, there shouldn't be a breakdown there.
Yeah. No, that's good advice, guys.
One thing that I would say is you kind of, when you ask that question, Elliot, do you mean campaigns? And I mean like pillar campaigns, like these are quarter long, multiple assets driving traffic from multiple sources, or is this like a webinar, an ebook, like a one-off?
I think the webinar and ebooks, I mean, they're easy to pull off. I'm talking about the former, right?
All right, you're talking about a true like, hey, this is a dedicated campaign
which
for this quarter.
I think we can all agree that's what we should be aspiring to as partner leaders, right? Is to be driving campaigns that have long-term impact.
Yeah.
Because anybody could do a webinar, right? You know that.
Yeah. Luckily for me, my Drift team is amazing. They do partner stuff all the time, and we're trying to get better at doing campaign-centric things where we're kind of zooming out and aligning the calendars. And that's going to be at the topic of another episode. We had Pete Caputa to talk about partner enablement side of marketing. We're going to find that amazing partner marketer that knows how to do demand gen and campaigns with partners at scale. So if you know someone, there's going to be LinkedIn posts about this episode. Tag them in the comments. We want to talk to them. Post it in the YouTube
I might know a few people.
Talk to.
I might know a few people that can help you there. But I would definitely listen into that episode, because it's an area that I truly need to learn and improve what I do there.
Absolutely. Elliot, this has been fantastic. Before we go, everyone, just a quick reminder that this episode is sponsored by Crossbeam. Crossbeam is a partner ecosystem platform that acts as a data escrow service that finds overlapping customers and prospects with your partners while keeping the rest of your data private and secure. So you can sign up for free at crossbeam.com. This has been great. It's fun to be doing a deal with Elliot right now. We're like negotiating back and forth, and we do a podcast. It's all secret, so we can't tell you what it's about. But the fun thing is, what I really love about this more than anything is that you just advertised a role for 6 Cents on here. And like, I have an open role too. I'm hiring for a head of strategic alliances. In this podcast, Kevin, who do we report to in this podcast? No one. We can do whatever we want. So Kevin, you hiring anyone? Anything else you got going on? Oh, Pawn Stars. That's what happened. We can talk. We'll wrap with that. Why were you on Pawn Stars yesterday?
Oh man. Oh God, I didn't think we were going to get into this. Yeah. So I collected historical letters from people like signed by Albert Einstein, Thomas Edison, Booker T. Washington, Coretta Scott King. I've got a bunch of them, and I brought in 26 letters to Pawn Stars. We filmed yesterday, and it'll air soon. Nobody should watch this. It probably won't be interesting to anyone. I don't even know why we're talking about this.
I grew up in a pawn shop. I am actually super interested. I call every price that comes up on that show. I think I've seen like most of the episodes. I love it.
Jared,
hilarious.
promise we'll dedicate a full episode of this show to just talking about why and how you grew up in a pawn store.
So what pawn shops and partnerships have in common, or what my pawn shop experience taught me about being in partnerships. Amazing. We got to close this one down. Elliot.
I spent like 57 minutes with you, and my God, I have to say there is an uncanny, like an eerily growing uncanny resemblance to Elon Musk at this point. I totally.
He's a lucky guy. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, he is a lucky guy. He's a lucky guy.
Thank you guys
Awesome.
for having me on. This has been tons of fun. Can learn a lot from you guys, and looking forward to the other episodes, Jared, that come here. It's a good thing you've done here. Good job.
It's all about the smart people we bring on. Kevin and I are just friends, so we're just trying to learn ourselves. So appreciate everyone. Y'all, don't forget, like, subscribe, leave us a review, all that fun stuff. Leave a comment, and we'll see you next time.